Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Hi, I'm Zane from Beast Robotics, and today we're going to be making cars. Oh, not this kind of car? Well, okay, our cars won't be quite that fancy, but we'll be making pullback race cars using supplies found around the house. Over the course of this module, we will also learn about the physics behind these cars and everything else in our lives. Let's put on our physics hats and get started. Physics is a funny word. It is spelled P-H-Y-S-I-C-S, and it contains a lot of letters that you wouldn't think are there. Now, why does physics matter? Now, physics matters because it's the study of matter and also energy. Matter is defined as stuff. Everything around you is made of matter. You are made of matter. You matter. Your house is made of matter. Air is made of matter. Water is made of matter. Everything matters. Mass is the amount of matter in an object. We often measure mass in grams or kilograms. Energy is the ability to do work, such as propelling a car forward. Now, there are different types of energy. One important type of energy is kinetic energy, or energy due to motion. Another important type of energy is potential energy, or stored energy in an object. When I take this rubber band and stretch it, it gains potential energy, because it wants to unstretch. But when I let go of this rubber band, it gets rid of the potential energy. But the energy has to go somewhere. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So the energy turns into kinetic energy, and the rubber band starts flying.
Ow!
This demonstrates an important law in physics, the law of conservation of energy. Well, not exactly that kind of law. A scientific law is a statement that describes things that happen. Scientific laws are supported using experiments and observations. The law of conservation of energy states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only converted from one form of energy to another. Now, we are going to use the law of conservation of energy to design our pullback cars. We will store potential energy in a stretched rubber band, and when we release the car, the energy will turn into kinetic energy and the car will move. Zoom! First, we need to gather all of our materials. This includes 1 thin, stretchy rubber band, 2 matching stiffer, thicker rubber bands, 1 paper clip, 2 round pencils, not hexagonal, 1 small box about the size of a check box, 2 sets of 2 matching lids, 1 hole puncher, and 1 pen to use to punch holes. Now we are ready to build our car. First, we will use the hole puncher to punch holes in our box. The holes should be about 1 inch from the end and about 1/4 inch up from the bottom. But don't worry about measuring, it just has to be pretty close. So about there. We want to do 2 on each side. Next, we will use one of our pencils to enlarge these holes so the pencil fits through them freely. I'm just going to push it through and turn it a little bit. The pencils are going to act as the axles for our car. There. Now when you put the pencil through, it will turn freely. Next, we want to insert a pencil to use as the rear axle. So choose whichever end you want to be the back of your car and insert a pencil through both holes, like so. Now you're going to take your thin, stretchy rubber band and you're going to loop it underneath the rear axle, like this. Now you have an end facing the front of your car and facing the back of your car. Take the end facing the front of your car and loop it underneath the end facing the back of the car. Now, take this end, which is now facing the front of the car, and let go, like this. Now, we want to add the paper clip, so we can attach the rubber band to the front axle of the car. So take your working end of the rubber band and slide it onto the end of the paper clip. And then turn the paper clip over, so then the rubber band is in the back of the paper clip. Now, you're going to take your front axle, you're going to insert it through one of the holes, you're going to loop the end of the paper clip around the front of the axle, and then stick the axle through the other hole. For our next step, we don't even need what we've made so far, but we do need 4 lids to use as wheels for our car. I used 2 stacked potato chip covers and 2 milk caps. You can use whatever plastic lids you find around the house, as long as you have 2 matching pairs or 4 that match. You can even cut your own circles out of cardboard. Next, we're going to use our pen to poke holes in each one of these lids. You might want to get an adult's help so you don't poke your fingers. Now, you want to find the center of your lids. Sometimes they even have a bump in the center, which makes it really easy. Now, you'll take your pen and place it on the center and force it through, like that. And then, you can continue to push the pen through until the hole is large enough that it fits snugly on the axle of your car. Let me show you that one more time on one of these pink lids. I'm going to find the center and poke the pen through. And then check to make sure it fits. We will do this again for the rest of our lids. Now, we want to attach our wheels to our axle. If some of your lids were larger, you're going to want to put those on the rear axle. That's the one with the rubber band attached to it. You're simply going to push the pencil through the hole that you made with the pen, like this. The wheels should be fairly snug on the axle, but if they aren't, feel free to add glue. Do this for the remaining 3 wheels. Now, we are going to add our less stretchy, thicker rubber bands as tires. We are going to loop them around the rear wheels. This will help the car grip the floor better. Now our car is finished. Let's see how it works. First, you're going to roll the rear axle backwards. This will stretch the rubber band and help it gain potential energy. Then, watch your car go. You can even race your car against siblings or friends. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, we already learned about one important physics law today, the law of conservation of energy. But there are 3 other laws that will be important to us today. And those 3 were all developed by Sir Isaac Newton in the 1600s. No. Yeah, him. Isaac Newton was a very smart scientist who came up with the 3 laws of motion. Now let's do a countdown. Now, the 3rd law of motion states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. There's a term we use for these actions, and that's called a force. A force is just a push or a pull. And forces come in pairs. When a car crashes into a wall, the force of the car pushing into the wall will equal the force of the wall pushing back on the car. Now, to understand the 2nd law of motion, we need a new term, and that's acceleration. Acceleration is the change in speed and/or direction of an object. And it turns out that if we multiply an object's acceleration by its mass, then we can find the force applied to it. Now, the 1st law of motion is easy to understand once we understand the 2nd law of motion. That is, an object in motion will stay in motion, and an object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Speed or direction cannot change without an unbalanced force. Of course, we know that force equals mass times acceleration, and if the force is 0 and the object has mass, then the acceleration or change in speed or direction will also be 0. Now, one other point. Objects, like this car, are usually acted upon by some forces. For example, gravity is pulling down on this car just as much as the table is pushing up on this car due to the 3rd law of motion. So the force of gravity and the force of the table balance out and the object does not accelerate. But only forces that aren't balanced will cause acceleration, like my hand pushing this car. Now, if you were paying attention, you notice something strange. Based on the 1st law of motion, the car should keep going at its final speed once the rubber band runs out, right? We aren't applying any force to stop it, or are we? Well, actually, there is another force at work here, and that is friction. Friction is the force that resists motion when 2 objects rub against each other. There is friction between the wheels and the floor. That slows the car down. But now, there's another problem. Remember that energy cannot be created or destroyed? That's the law of conservation of energy that we learned in the beginning. So where is the kinetic energy going? In fact, friction is turning the kinetic energy into heat energy. But that's not enough to feel on the wheels of the car. But try rubbing your hands together like this. That creates friction. Do your hands feel warm? Now, as we can see, all 3 of Newton's laws are affecting our car. The law of conservation of energy also plays a big role. Physics can be seen all around us because physics describes the rules of the universe. Now, let's recap what we learned. that physics is the study of matter and energy, that matter is the stuff around us, that energy is the ability to do work, that there are many types of energy, such as kinetic energy, energy of motion, potential energy, stored energy, and heat energy. The law of conservation of energy: energy is transformed, not created nor destroyed. Newton's third law: for every action, or force, there is an equal and opposite reaction, or force. Newton's second law: force equals mass times acceleration. And Newton's first law: speed or direction cannot change without an unbalanced force. Thanks for joining me in this module. I hope you enjoyed making your pullback cars and learning about all of the physics behind them. Make sure to tag us on social media using hashtag BeastStemCamp. If you liked this video, my name is Zane. Check in next time for another awesome experiment. Beast out!